Got my eyes straight ahead, got my head in the game. With the red light on, I'm just waiting for the change. Keep my head down low.
Hi, I'm Jay Fallon. Thanks for listening to The Slippery Slope. So, got to go through a few stories, mainly to do with law enforcement here in Australia. I think it's a little unusual the way the direction that law enforcement in general seems to be going. There seems to be, in my opinion, a collapse in leadership throughout dip, throughout different layers of jurisdictions within Australia, whether it be the state or federal, or even the ASIO area. Now, it's there's something going on. There's something wrong. We appear to lack leadership across varying states, different jurisdictions. There is a lack of leadership. I'm going to bring up a few different headlines. I'm not going to dwell too much on a couple of these headlines because, well, to me, it just shows the absolute lack of leadership that we have at the moment, anyway. And I think we've got a problem with people who are just not cut out for the roles that they are in. It does make me wonder where we're headed in Australia when it comes to our law enforcement, when it comes to our leadership within the country. If you think about Elbow at the moment, where is Elbow? He's kind of, it's almost like he's done a little bit of a Joe Biden, kind of just disappeared. Is he out there? Is he actually making decisions? Is anything happening when it comes to Elbow, our prime minister? Um, I don't know, because it seems like all you see on the news, you would almost think that the Greens and people like Lydia Thorpe and others of her ilk, that they're the ones running the country. Because Elbow sure as heck doesn't seem to be making any decisions, making any declarations, giving us any guidance to where we're actually going. It we are rudderless. It seems like America, the Western world, is just leaderless. You see what's happening in the UK, all that rioting. I think they need a leader. They need someone to step up and take control, but they've got no one. It's a weird scenario. And then, like I said, here in Australia, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with our leadership. Elbow, where is he? What's he actually doing? Okay, let's check out this. So I'm not gonna, like I said, I'm not gonna talk too much about some of these articles. This one here speaks for itself. Police commissioner bans purchase of alcohol for gifts, hospitality. This was in New South Wales. So embattled New South Wales Police Commissioner Karen Webb has axed the practice of using taxpayers' money to buy alcohol for gifts and hospitality after she became engulfed in controversy for purchasing 50 bottles of gin, and she's going to give that away. I mean, I read this whole story. I thought, this is ridiculous. What made any of these fellas think that this was a good idea in the first place? What would make any of you think? I mean, I get it. I get it several decades ago, but I assumed this kind of practice would have gone out in the 90s. Definitely in the 2000s, you would think. But no, they're still doing it. Now, you remember the story that I did talked about in a few episodes about the this counterterrorism operation that targeted the 13-year-old boy who had autism. 13, autism. The magistrate kicked the whole case out. He was disgusted in the way the whole case was run. So apparently, this terrorism operation cost more than $500,000. More than $500,000. These people, they all got roasted by the magistrate. He was disgusted in the way that it was handled by the AFP, by ASIO, by Victoria Police. Um, and yet no one's held accountable. No one's held accountable. There is, and they've all this money that they've spent on it. And what did they get out of it? They got absolutely nothing out of it. Now, I was involved in quite a few larger operations when I was in QPS and seconded to the Triple C, the Crime and Corruption Commission. $500,000 isn't a lot of money in the grand scheme of things when you're dealing with an operation or a large operation. However, when you've got an operation and you have no, you really fail, your outcomes have failed. That's disgusting. And it's not just a failure because what the magistrate did, what the magistrate said about the whole case and how it was all run. It just the outcomes in general, even without that. I mean, all you targeted a 13-year-old boy, and basically they led him down the path of going towards terrorism, of having a terrorism attitude, ideologies. It seemed weird, and they spent all that money. And I don't know. It's just, but like again, where is the leadership? Who's held accountable for all these things? This is the upper echelon of Australian law enforcement, and that's the kind of thing they're doing. The AFP, Australian Federal Police, and the Victorian Police just it makes you shake your head. And this is where Australian law enforcement is at right now. But hey, let's we'll flick over to another story. This one here, Queensland, my home state of Queensland. Crikey. I did speak about this when it first came out ages ago, and they've just had another. This has been ongoing anyway. So, Queensland Police launch review after revelations of abominable treatment of children in watch houses. So, if you're not up to date on this, Queensland Police for quite a while now have been allowed to, because of a shortage in detention centres for children, they've been given the ability to hold children in watch houses where normally you would hold adults. Now, obviously, when I was in police, I worked. You every police station has a little watch house and that. Um, these watch houses, even the larger ones, they're not made. They're not really made for children. I would not like to spend any time in there, no matter how hardened the child is. I wouldn't like to spend any time in there. But mate, they're not made for children, and you don't want any kind of mixing of children with adults. Some of the trash, sorry, but some of the rubbish you get going through this place is disgusting. So, Commissioner, here's the new one, Steve Golshuski says facilities and training will be examined, but not whether children should be held in them for long periods. This is this is a little bugbear of mine and other officers or former officers and officers. I think QPS always like, oh yeah, okay, well let's work out some training. Let's do some more training. But they never actually address the main problem, the main issue. The leadership, the hierarchy, the main leadership team for the Queensland Police Service never actually look at the problem and try and fix it from the ground up. And heaven forbid, if the problem may actually be falling at their feet or things that they can do, 99% of the time, it seemed like it always came back to, oh, we've got to train, more training for the troops on the ground. The actual idea, putting children in just your normal watch houses, is not a good idea. It's not a good idea. Instead of, training, more training for police who already you know, who already run off their feet. Come on. And already have enough to be trained on. They already don't get enough training in other areas. There's other areas like, pulling out your firearm and shooting it. They need more training in that, I would say, given the amount of shootings we've had in the last couple of years from Queensland Police. That's where you need more training. This kind of thing, it shouldn't be training because they shouldn't be dealing with children in the watch houses in the first place, in my opinion. But here we go. He says more training. Says so. Golshuski says he's acknowledges end-to-end systemic issues. Systemic issues. If you've got systemic issues, you have to pull the whole thing apart. You can't just say, okay, more training. Systemic issues in police watchhouses after revelations about the abominable treatment of children, conditions likened to torture, and allegations of misconduct. Golshuski on Tuesday announced a broad-ranging review, another review, yep, okay, into the state's watchhouses, which he said were under significant pressure. Yeah, they are under significant pressure. And purely just going in and saying, yep, a review and some more training on the police on the ground who are already under the pump, under way too much pressure, is not the answer. Anyway, police watchhouses are holding cells designed to hold violent, dangerous, and drug affected adults for short periods. Short periods. In Queensland, children can be held in them indefinitely. That, oh, sorry, that would be enough to drive you crazy in one of these places. Oh, yeah. Sometimes for several weeks due to overcrowding in the youth detention system. An investigation by Guardian Australia and SBS, The Feed, revealed footage showing children placed in isolation cells and watch houses, including a 13-year-old girl with a severe intellectual disability. An ABC report also detailed an allegation of police brutality. Golshiwski said the review would not look into whether these facilities were appropriate. You did read that. I'll read it again. Golshiwski, the police commissioner, current, said the review would not look into whether these facilities were appropriate to hold children for long periods, but the ability of the police to deliver a system under current arrangements. I tell you, I know very well these facilities are not appropriate for children. They're not. I have never seen any uh any holding cells, any of these watch houses that would be appropriate for children, especially a 13-year-old girl with severe intellectual disability. There's none out there. None of the watch houses that I ever saw would be appropriate. And to say, uh, and to say that they're going to look into the ability of police to deliver a system under current arrangements, I can tell you now definitively that it is not. They do not have the ability. So where is the leadership? Where is the leadership from Golshiwski? Where is the leadership coming from the Queensland Police hierarchy? If this is what you want to review into. So it goes on. It would look into whether facilities, including some watch houses that were more than 50-year-old, were fit for purpose. No, they're not fit for purpose. We all know that already. You don't need a review. The review will also assess that the training and skills of the Watchhouse workforce, made up of sworn police officers and specialist Watchhouse officers. Advocates have raised concerns that police were not equipped to care for children with complex needs. No joke, they're not. And I don't think that should be expected of them. Anyway, so the review includes all facilities, how we staff them, how we train our staff, and the conduct within those watch houses, in particular the treatment of those in custody. Police will also now mandate that officers use body-worn cameras. Crikey, I thought that was already going on. Why the heck wasn't that going on already? And publish live data showing the number of children and adults in watch houses. The number of complaints about police in watch houses has increased in the past year. Clearly, we're very concerned. And in some instances, our people have gotten it wrong, he said. In some instances. Queensland locks up more children than most other states combined. Golshiwski said numbers of people in custody have been increasing and that the demand placed on our watch houses will continue to intensify. Golshiwski, sorry, you need to be thinking about the leadership and the way you're trying to tackle this issue. It's not just, hey, let's throw out more training for our staff on the ground. And the Queensland Police Service, there's two things. They just said that Queensland Police lock up more children than all other states combined. Isn't it, don't you think it's strange? In the last couple of years, so that report that came out was at 22, 23, Queensland Police shot more people in Queensland than all the other states combined. And then I think it's 23 to 24. We still, maybe not all combined, but we still shot more people than all the other states. We shoot more people than all other states. We lock more children up than all the other states. Is it training that police need? I think part of it is training. I think is the lack of leadership that we've had. We've had bad leadership within the Queensland Police Service for many, many, many years. Many years. They, I've said it before, feel like a broken record. Anyway, poor recruitment, poor recruitment levels, poor recruitment in the quality, poor training, expecting more of people than what you can or should expect of them. People that should be that are in areas like this that really need specialist training and need to specialize in working in these areas, but instead we have general duties and people in watch houses that are really they're equipped to look after adults. But like I said, this is where, like I said earlier, this is where Australian law enforcement is going. We seem to be lacking leadership across the board. Across the board. It's not just Queensland, but Queensland leading the way in poor leadership, leading the way in poor outcomes, shooting more people than every other state, locking more children up than any other state. Queensland, what are we doing? We got to do better. Okay, the last story I'm going to talk about this here. It's still law enforcement, but we're going to ASIO, talking about ASIO. I think it's very concerning. Some of the rhetoric that comes out in this story are very concerning. Very concerning is for us as a nation. ASIO stretched as it faces terror threat that is more complex than a decade ago. So, in short, the head of ASIO says a growing number of unpredictable and violent and complex violent extremist threats has his organisation stretched. Australia's national terrorism alert level was lifted from possible to probable. It says here yesterday, but this article came out last week. I believe it was over a week ago now. What's next? It says patience with radicalized youth. Patience. We all just need patience, along with strong male role models, are key to countering the threats, according to experts. According to experts. So I just want to go further down in this story. ASIO's alarm is shared by E-Safety Commissioner Julie Inman Grant. Here's the thing. When people like Inman Grant and people of her ilk, this other chap who's on the article saying, hey, we need better role models. When they say that we need strong male role models, what do they mean? You remember how they came into the public eye earlier this year when they got into an argument, into a legal fight with X, with Elon Musk, and with a chap known as, I think, is Billboard Chris. I'll bring up this article. So just to refresh your memory, this is what it was all about. Okay, so like I said, keep in mind when they say we need strong male role models, who are they talking about? Because this is the argument they got into earlier this year. Why this disparaging post about an Aussie UN trans expert who plugs bondage, bestiality, drugs, and taxpayer-funded sex change operations must be taken down, or billionaire Elon Musk will cop an $800,000 fine. E-Safety Commissioner demands post is deleted. Regulator is an Australian government agency. So Chris Elston, who goes by the name of Billboard Chris on X and lives in Canada, revealed on Tuesday he had been sent an Orwellian removal notice from the Australian government's E-Safety Commissioner. Elston's alleged offence had been to share a Daily Mail story in late February about Teddy Cook, who is a female to male, so now supposed male, trans Australian activist who landed a job on the WHO, World Health Organization. People who've just declared monkeypox a big issue now. And how do you get monkeypox? Anyway, so he's landed a job at the WHO, on the WHO expert panel, drafting care guidelines for trans and non-binary people. In his post, Mr. Elston misgendered Cook, okay, and made other disparaging remarks. Cook, 45, who described himself as a professional queer man of trans experience, has advocated for taxpayer-funded surgeries for all trans Australians. His now private social media posts are awash with X-rated material, including public nudity, bondage parties, trans orgies, and even a photo of a man apparently having sex with A dog. Sex with the dog. Okay. They would consider someone like that Teddy Cook as a strong male role model, even though they're not male, even though they have all that depravity on their social media, even though that's the way they live their lives in a depraved manner. That's who they consider strong male role models. And then they turn up and say, hey, Australia's got a problem. Australian law enforcement has a problem. We have a bad leadership. We have a lack of leadership. We've had a lack of leadership for decades. We have leadership that are not held accountable for their ridiculous ideas and their pathetic outcomes. And then we have other leadership that turns around and says, "Hey, we're going to sue you if you misgender someone who's not a male, but you misgender them and call them a female. And we're going to we're going to disregard their depraved lifestyle and we're going to promote them because they're the kind of male that you need. They're the kind of male that we need our young men to look up to. They're the kind of role models we need." This is what they're saying the answer is. The answer, as I've said before, is Australia needs Jesus. We need to pray for our country. That's the answer. But we are reaping what we've sown for years, telling our young children, our young men, that they suffer from toxic masculinity, downplaying, pushing our young boys down, holding them back, and then promoting filth and depravity, like what happens with, like what that Teddy Cook promotes, and allowing people like Inman Grant to take up leadership roles, and then allowing other, just, I don't know, just very inappropriate or very lacking people who lack ability to actually lead and promoting them to leadership roles throughout our country in all our law enforcement agencies. No one is held accountable. No one's held accountable. We need to start holding these people accountable. We need to start holding our politicians accountable because they're the ones that allow these commissioners, police commissioners, the head of ASIO, the safety commissioner, they're the ones that promote them into these positions. It's our politicians. That's my opinion. We need to be voicing our opinions a lot more, pushing back, holding these people accountable, holding our politicians accountable. Ultimately, we need to pray for our nation. That's my opinion. Thanks for listening to the slippery slope.
They just fuel a desire that will take me higher.